other things going on. So.
Ooh, wow. All right. So we're back with, I believe this is episode 4, aptly titled The Buddy Cops. Tonight I have with me a guest star. Some say that when he cuts himself shaving, he bleeds justice. And that his other car is Diusha. All we know is that it's William Cole.
Salutations, everyone. Glad to be up here. Glad to be of service. I'm looking forward to talking a lot about my clan amongst clans.
You have so many grade 3s. I think you're like short literally one grade 3 out of all the Dimension Robos. Or did you actually get them all in there?
I definitely try to. And whenever Gogo comes out, then I'm definitely pushing it to 14. It's going to be wonderful. I always play my decks that way. I love it.
Well, we all know that I'm a metalboard player. He's a D-Robo. So at some point, we're going to have to bring him back, or I'm going to have to find somebody that's a cosmic hero expert.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. It wouldn't hurt at all. I mean, it's like, I don't know if anyone specializes in them yet. I hope they do eventually.
I think they need to be fleshed out a little more before we get somebody to do that. They either need to be supportive the next time we get D-Robo stuff, Dimension Police stuff, or they can Bushi can just finally break down and give us the Mass Police deck everybody's been wanting. They keep taunting us.
It could happen. It could happen. I feel like they want to give Cosmic Heroes a chance. Who knows? Maybe they'll force Kenji to use it in the series, and then I'll be kind of forced to go that route. Or maybe they'll just keep him with his D-Robos and keep on giving us some support. I mean, everyone's favorite subclan in it right now is the Robos, but ironically, the better performing clan is the Metalboard. So it makes you wonder.
We have it here. He admitted, my side's better. Ultimate justice over buddy over friendship every time.
It's more like, man, the Vigilantes have their means. I mean, it's very vicious, but once again, they do their best work on the back of the Robos. So we set the table for them to knock it down.
You have that. We could have that discussion all night long if we wanted.
Yeah, I totally would see the sunrise before that comes to a conclusion.
Oh yeah. All right, let's hop right in this because you got a doozy of a deck, and this is something you ran at the ARG.
I ran this in Indy.
So hop away.
All right, so of course I always use Goyusha. I personally have grown fond of it, especially over the days. I mean, Goyusha just always and most people see it as a minus on the first initial reaction of him, but people don't realize that it's really hard to set up your plays properly if you don't really have the right grade 3s in your deck, and I run a lot of them. So for me, it's not about grabbing whoever shows up. Sometimes I may have a Daikaiser out there that I need to superior break right onto, and Goyusha does that. Or sometimes I need to have an opponent who's at grade 1 and is riding a weak grade 1 and wants to play the grade 2 game at some point. Escape to grade 3 immediately. So it's just a way to either dodge the rush or to help set up OTK plays or make that final great push. I mean, I've always loved Goyusha for that versatility alone.
All right. I mean, I've tried to mimic your deck, though I will say I am far too of an efficient person to take that gamble that you do. With all those grade 3s, my deck is set at like 17, 13, 10, 10. I can't possibly, I'm not brave enough to go with like 15 or 14 grade 3s that you do.
Oh, yeah.
I really do see the merit in it, because I do see the merit in this guy now, testing that build out.
Oh, yeah. The thought process is that there's going to be a grade 3 for every situation.
We'll get into that later on down the road.
Which usually helps out too, usually. But you have to be a bit crazy to play D-Robos. I've always told a lot of people that.
Next up, we got the Crit Trigger, Die-Wolf. I know a lot of people were very happy that you got another Dimensional Robo Trigger.
Oh, yeah. It was real happy days, definitely. When the Extra Booster first, when the Extra Booster just came out for it, I was excited just to hear that there's going to be another crit in there, because now it's like, that's 4 less non-D-Robo triggers I have to run for my Goyusha.
Yeah.
So that's why I was really jazzed about that. So between Die-Wolf and Die Battles, now you can run an aggro deck of 8 crits, and then if you want to run 12 crits, you're able to, but Goyusha has more versatility now because you have another Dimensional Robo trigger that can be slapped down for the cost. So it always worked out for me. I think I ran it as a 2 or a 1 of in my build. I can't remember exactly which. But I definitely ran at least one die wolf in my build.
Alrighty. Die battles. He's been around for a while.
Since the beginning.
Do you still use the soul ability when you can?
Oh yeah, if I have multiples in my hand, I go Yusha immediately. I want them in the soul like right then and there usually. Like usually in my luck with my deck, I run 4 die battles right now. I have always run 4 die battles because go Yusha is my thing. When die battles goes off, I mean it always helps out because it's that +3/+3. Now, for when I run Dayusha, sometimes he's out there. So blasting that soul gets him up to that 2 crit pressure. Die the same way. You know, sometimes you need that 2 crit pressure. You can blast him out the soul. So what I would do sometimes is I would just, put a couple die battles, go Yusha another D-Robe when they're called die yard. Blast out those 2 die battles, and now that's a 16 2 crit unboosted swing from the Vanguard die yard. And it really creates that pressure and that the intensity at that point in time. It's something we've always relied on. So I've always run for because I've always run Goisha.
Alrighty. Moving on, Reika. You yourself have actually convinced me to run Reika in a lot of things now that you've shown me her utility. Will you always be using this card in the future?
If we get a new like a solid, strong stand trigger for D-Robos, I may jump over. But for now, I am really happy with what Operator Girl does. I mean, what Rekka does is just beautiful because it's strictly a stride scenario whenever she gets her number extremely high. And it's always between that and Dijet. Usually that's an 8K boost right there. So you figure that your stride gets you to 25, 26. You'll be sitting at 34 unboosted, which means if Goishi's behind your Vanguard, you're hitting that number. You're getting that card back. And it's replacing itself in the deck. It's a stand that puts itself back in the deck. So you're not really missing it when you draw before you check. What you're doing is you're just replenishing your hand with something that you may not need later on. If you don't need that guard then and there, then put that back. Maybe you'll get something else, like maybe another grade 1 or maybe that perfect guard that you would like to have, because it's not really a stand to their guard of being like, base stand and that's it. It's the stand and a draw. It's a multifaceted trigger, and that's why I run it, because it's a very useful thing.
All right. The Die Crane, how many draw triggers do you use, and do you think it can just be swapped out for more crits or more Reikas, or?
Right now, my build right now is 5 crits, 4 stand, 3 draw, because I just I'm trying to find a nice balance, and right now I'm experimenting between whether having defensive draws is more important than having stands, because right now I realize that having crits in a D-Robo deck is nice, but not a necessity, because the crits come from our abilities. So I'm trying to find a way to install more draws into my deck. Actually, if it wasn't, I think Kelly's the one who tried to convince me into doing this process, where it's like, considering, we don't keep hand really well in D-Robo, so maybe running the draws is a requirement. So what I've been doing is I've been experimenting with 3 draws for the moment, and they've been playing pretty well. I mean, whenever I have to, whenever they come through with defensive draws, they've been really nice. And of course, it's nice to have another option for Go Yusha, so it's like I don't feel like I'm using 10Ks into the soul and losing a lot of guard potential. What happens is that I can use that for a 5K and then not feel nearly as deprived guard-wise. So it's been working pretty well for that.
So do you feel like in the future, potentially, you could go like what Spike Brothers Ogre deck did and run the opposite thing of like around eight draws to help out the hand, and then just run the 4 crits, since D-Robos automatically gets you the crits anyways?
Thought process is I like the option of possibly ending games on the crits. I think that you can never really truly get rid of that pressure, and I think it's that element of unknown that comes through with it. Even at 3 crits, it's not always a given that you're going to end the game, and I feel like crits keep people honest, and that's the one thing that I want to say, because by running stands, that means that your rear guards sometimes need to hit a little bit harder than 1 crit. Otherwise, your opponent's not going to fear those rear guards restanding at all. So I feel like the crits will always have to be a part in the deck at some point, but not to that degree, though.
Okay.
I can agree with that.
Alrighty. There's really not too much to say on this one, because it's just a simple heal trigger.
Well, yeah, 4 heals is 4 heals, and the D-Robos is D-Robos. I mean, it helps in the cause, and Goisha likes it, and it kind of keeps everything moving on, Always nice to see it when it hits.
So I got a nerd question here. Do you know where this comes from?
I've been scratching my brain a lot about this, actually. Someone told me a while back when BT13 first released, and it was in my inbox, and I remember reading it. I was like, someone told me this, and then I forgot completely. I was like, ah, and so yeah, so I was like, I completely forgot exactly where, but I should know. I feel like I should know because it's something that's run across my eyes before, and I'm really good about that kind of stuff.
I will actually send you the link to the series when we get this over. But this comes from Rescue Fire. Tacoma Sentai Rescue Fire. It's a lesser known Sentai series that's not Super Sentai. And they deal with world disasters rather than monsters.
Oh yeah, most definitely. By all means, give me a link to my send to my Facebook. I'll definitely get a chance to look into it.
No good. And that's as soon as I think everybody looked at me really weird. It's like, what are you talking about? That's not Power Rangers. Like, no, it's not Power Rangers. This is something completely different.
It's so hard to tell people that it's not always about the Rangers when it comes to dealing with the Robos. Like there are a whole lot of lore that goes behind them, and
I know. I mean, all they got to do is go look at Galgaigar or some of the '80s super intelligent robot series,
and assume that's it. But
yeah,
people just automatically group it once. It's like that's how you know that someone truly isn't a fan when they group it once and say that's it. It's like no, there are levels to this.
All right, moving on. We got the good commander himself. We were very fortunate. He did not get restricted to one. Like a lot of us were thinking, and drove that price up astronomically. He is still a very high costing card, and rightfully so.
Well, you figure that the commander's been around since the beginning. I mean, back in the day, I mean, D Police, we didn't have much going for us other than maybe getting us to take off. And it was still a maybe because we had to hit the Vanguard, and back then we didn't break guards. We just swung as hard as we could and hoped for the best. And usually when Perfect Guard started coming around, it was like there's not much more we can do. So people forgot about Laurel. It was real simple. They just forgot all about him. But nowadays, though, I mean, like I said, with Strides and with Dikaiser, people fear the notion of resending Vanguard and D Police because they already know that we have crits for days.
Everybody fears that, but Mega Colony, and we'll get into that in a little later.
Yeah, we can talk about that matchup. That matchup is going to be a bane of our existence for quite a while now. But I only ran 2 of them in Indy, actually.
Really?
There's such discussion about Laurel as a whole. I'm still on the side of saying you only need like 2 because you don't want to see it too often, and usually when you see it, it's too late. It's like it becomes a win more card as opposed to a win condition. Like the win condition for ND Robo should be when you break ride. It should be when Daikaiser's turning up at limit break. And people try to figure out if Laurel is the win condition. And truly, it's when you break ride because your opponents aren't dropping their whole hand if the grade 2 is swinging for 9 and you have your full fill on the board. They're dropping their whole hand if you're saying 36, 38, 43 crits to the face, and I might withstand. So, I mean, it's the notion of the win condition over the win more. And I've always reasoned that it's a win more card as opposed to the win condition. Now, he can steal some games. You know, a lot of cards can steal games, and I feel like that's what Laurel does. He steals some games. But I wouldn't say he's win condition by far.
See, I'm in the band camp of running at least 3 of him. That way you're not always going to get him in hand to ride, but you're more frequently, he's going to be in your hand frequently enough to call. And with the bout of people like Die Dragon, Grand Kung Fu, and we just call him, I personally just call the metal board dude Ravage from the Decepticon. You always get at least a 16K column with him.
Yeah, that's true. That's true indeed. I mean, the notion is that you want to, it has to be a 12K in front of Laurel. Otherwise, it's not a very respectable rear guard column. But once again, in Deep Police, we don't think about rear guard column. We think about the Vanguard swinging for astronomical numbers and everyone else saying, hit them hard.
All right. Moving on, we got Yuka, who was a promo and kind of a pain in the butt to get sometimes, but we managed.
Yeah, it was on my wish list. It was on my things to see. You know, I was hoping for Yuka for a while, and when I finally got my set and a half and 2 sets of Yuka, I was really excited because something about the ability, because back then I remember using Cosmo Beak, And I remember how hard it was, and I remember using Dydro. I remember how hard it was to just get that +4 for just having to use 2 counterblasts or 1 counterblast and having to be a D-Robo. I remember how hard they used to be. So for me, getting Yuka was a godsend because it's finally a card that just said, play it, +4 someone. And that means everything when it comes to making magic numbers happen. If I have a Daiush out there, it can be on 2 crits, Daiart on 2 crits, and that's a generation break 1. So you're definitely seeing it a lot more readily after the first tri's over with. That's what helped me out in the longer run. I loved having Yuka, and I ran 2 of it. It was great.
Now, let me ask you this. I don't have a picture for this one, guys, because I was focusing on getting this one because Will's build is very large. But the introduction of, God, what's his name? Cosmic Hero Charger or Ranger or something?
Oh, Grand Ranger?
Yes, Grand Ranger. He's one of the very few new, he's one of the new 10K boosters. He's just flat out Generation Break 1. Once you hit it, you immediately get the 10K. Are you going to be considering putting him in at any time?
Ooh, thoughts. I mean,
because
I feel like
I'm sorry to interrupt. The one thing that I wanted, this plays along into it. The one thing that we've had plenty in Dimension Police is we now have, I believe, a total of 3K attackers. We've had Destiny Maker, Black Doctor, and now Grand Ranger.
I guess the notion then is having someone who just comes out there and just says, Vanguard does something, you're on 10, extra 3K makes a load of difference. I feel like I will run it, I will try it, but the problem is that it hurts the numbers, and I'm a real advocate of trying to keep my numbers of my D-Robos on point, because I already run Upper Rekka, I already run Laurels, and for me, it puts me in a bit of a position when, like, for example, in Indy against Blake, I was looking for a D-Robo of any kind to come to the top deck, and I got a Rekka instead. And if that was any other D-Robo card, that would have been me going into a Goyusha play for great True Die Kaiser to a Legion to a swing, and then swing it for 2 crits. But the problem is that I don't want to take too many D-Robos out the deck, because my dream deck is going to be one that runs purely on D-Robos, straight through. There's going to be like no Laurels in there. There's going to be no Rekkas in there. It's going to be just 50 cards, all Robos. And for me, I hate splashing other cards into it because I feel like it takes away from Goyusha's potential. With that said, if I was playing other D-Police clans, I would totally do it. I mean, there's no reason that like a 10K booster is not relevant. I mean, it's the nuts, really, when you have such great columns, especially for your Vanguard swing.
Yeah, I mean, the other part I really like about him, and we'll move on after this, is that unlike the other two, he's practically costless. All you got to do is stride once. Destiny Maker, you had to be at 4 damage, which, God in heaven, that means you're walking that fine line. Black Doctor, you had to be in Legion. Which actually was the biggest drawback in my metal board deck, and I actually am switching out to Grand Ranger to try it out, because that means I can get the 10K boost and make a 32 column into, or excuse me, a 26 into a 36.
So it'll be sitting pretty nicely regardless when you get that play off, man. Plus, of course, no PG, so he's kind of laughing at your opponent from that point.
Oh, absolutely. All right, we'll move on from this. Die Lion. I know a lot of us, myself included, we were absolutely ecstatic when this dude came out. This one says you can do Die Kaiser at any time.
Nothing says pressure like break riding on turn 3 while your opponent's at like 9K. It's something that I would do very often if I had a Die Lion in hand, where I would just go Yusha onto Die Kaiser, swing. If I check a grade 3, usually if the Die Lion comes out, I try to hold on to him. So I make it a point not to ride him. I think I ran 2. I ran 2 at the ARG, but it was like, the notion itself was, when you can break ride early, that is insane pressure on the opponent. Because then they're thinking to themselves, I'm taking 2 crits, and he's breaking guards this early in the game. Or, for me, I run a lot of other grade 3s. So for me, for example, in one of my matches, I would be on Dark Dayusha. I'd be like, okay, Die Lion's out here, so now I'm gonna neg your Vanguard minus 10k. But I'm already at grade 2. Like, no, you're minus 10k now. Now you're a -1. -1 swinging from three solid guards. A Die Dragon at a -1 is a respectable 15k drop.
Oh yeah.
So it makes for great pressure for the ability to get off your other limit break options early. That's why I ran a whole bunch of other grade 3s in there because, for example, one of my favorite plays to do when I have a die line out is to go Yusha into Great Daikaiser, the cross break run. And I would simply just kind of blast 2, and then I'd be swinging my triple drive check, all my opponents are grade 1. And so now they're already, behind now. They're check, no matter what comes from it. I'm already pressuring them to drop cards for that because there could be crits coming since I soul charge straight units. So that makes them drop hand early. And of course, they're swinging at an 11k base from grade 2. And if they do any damage, I'm just going to continue to pressure from there. So it's like I'm not really losing any hand from that, depending on what I check. So it always makes for fun plays when you have your limit breaks online early. And man, Die Lion was definitely one of the cards we totally needed to make our decks a little bit faster.
Alrighty. Perfect Guard. Is there any reason why? I know you're probably just keeping it with the dimensional robo theme. Is there any particular reason you're not using Grand Shield or Grand Guard for the unflipping?
I think my reason right now is let's see here. For why when I use Grand Guard, I didn't use Grand Guard because back in I didn't know how to do, because when I first got Grand Guard, Kagura was still a thing, and so I would always be seeing the X / the N, punch my rear guards, re-stand, swing again, or the Overlord the Great would hit the rear guard, stand, swing again. Mirror match was very relevant when the instruments dropped out, so I didn't run it at all. So it was just I just got conditioned to believing in those PGs because I wanted to stay away from that notion of unflipping to the regards of having to give up my D-Robo count, but more so because other units who hit rear guards and did crazy things were still around during the time. And I just never went to Grand Guard, really. It just never came up.
I think this is actually probably the better play because we are getting Murakami just keeps getting better and better, and they're going to get that Thunderstrike ability soon. And they're more now strict to binding cards. And it's almost look like the meta is going to be forcing us to go back to these types of perfect guards rather than the flips.
Right, and that's kind of what scares me. That's one of the reasons why I never really left the base perfect guards alone, because it's just a notion of I don't want this unit being hit. Because most people think it's all about protecting the Vanguard, but sometimes rear guards are just as important. Because if your rear guards get hit, sometimes they can cause more problems for the whole field getting hit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just been my mindset. That's why I've never left Die Shield.
All right, moving on. Die Barrett, another promo. He was a pain in the butt to get a hold of.
Such a pain to get a hold of. I ran one Die Barrett because it's a one-off. And off of my Dyer's plays, it gave me a lot more versatility. Most people would think just call out a Die Dragon or call it the Die Jet. Sometimes if I'm trying to build my soul up, like if I miss my if I have to ride a grade 1 that I don't have to ride, my only other grade 1 in the deck at the time was Laurel. So if I have to ride the Laurel, for example, and that means that my Legion stack is messed up. So Die Barrett was kind of in there to kind of help fix that to a degree. So whenever I'm trying to build the stack up for a true Daikaiser to be able to do its thing, sometimes when I use Dyer's skill, I call it the Die Barrett. And the Die Barrett goes straight to the soul in order to help facilitate the 3D Robo requirement in order to get the crit and the guard break online for the Legion. So for me, Die Barrett was nice. And of course, sometimes sniping starters is important, especially against those pesky shadows who, with Judge Vow and David, and they just have such great starters. Some starters just need to be nixed in the bud immediately. So, early pressure is important, and Die Barrett always helped with that.
Alrighty. Die Dragon, he's just our trusty and dependable 12k D-Robo attacker.
Yep, sometimes you need to have rear guards to swing. And Die Dragon's been doing that since BTO8. So you don't just want to go out there and just hit something. 12K is respectable, and if it restands with a Rekka, that's a 17. That's a 10K to most units.
Oh yeah. Alrighty. Die Fighter the 10K because the grade 2 game is real and extremely frustrating.
It's a terrifying process to be stuck on a 9K in today's meta. And since Aqua Force is about to be right back into the thick of things, as if it wasn't there before, the 10K is important nowadays. And people need to realize that people will rush you in D-Robos. They will call triggers out there on top of triggers and punch your Vanguard in the face. For me, having Die Fighter in the deck was important because the rush was really real. I mean, some people just literally like, I'm going to call my hand and swing at your Vanguard, swing at your Vanguard, swing at your Vanguard. And, terrifying.
So I got to ask, did you see the first episode of Gear Crisis yet?
I did. Yesterday, actually.
You did see where Shion literally tells her, make sure to ride a Vanguard every turn. It's almost like they're telling people, stop doing the grade 2 crap.
Well, they can tell them that all they want to, but that's more so a TCG, OCG tactic. I don't think that's going to affect the game state to that degree because if you're, like I said, Robos were not affected by the grade 2 game because we just get to grade 3, we're going to break ride, we're going to start making you go to grade 3 a little bit faster. The notion is that other clans, like for example, Gear Chronicle, they go straight vanilla if the opponent's not run a grade 3, and some clans really have a great grade 2 game, and it's an anti-meta strategy. I mean, I couldn't imagine trying to deal with that if I had the stride. So I feel for those people whose decks depend on them, their end game being in grade 4. I really feel for them. But for D-Robos, we don't worry about that. We will get there when we get there, and then if we don't get there, we're going to get there. That's why Go Yisha's a thing. And that's why I play Die Fighter, because I do not want to be stuck in grade 2 hell, because that's a terrifying place to be.
My Gear Chronicle deck next to my keyboard is crying.
I can believe that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with going vanilla.
Yes, there is. When you go vanilla against a Nubatama deck, then they just start ripping cards out of your hand, and that is not fun. Gear Chronicle actually has a horrible matchup against Nubatama.
I wouldn't have expected that, but I can believe that.
Because they just bind your hand so you can't stride, and then they can sit on their grade 2 and keep dropping Ninja the Pooh.
Ooh, yeah.
Like, I felt that first thing, and you don't think about that with that, but I'm digressing. We need to move on with D-Robos.
Roger that.
Dijet.
Oh, Dijet was probably the single most favorite card next to my Strias that came out in the extra booster, just because it was the one card that I felt like really made D-Robos a terrifying subclass. And it was the notion of putting back grade 3s. And I just think to myself, like, that's all we need in the deck. They're more important than triggers to a degree. And so it's a notion of putting back a grade 3. So it's almost like Prince saying, we stride for free. That's why I don't even run any of the stride fodders that came from the Cosmic Heroes. Well, that because they're Cosmic Heroes, but more so we didn't have to run those because Dijet became our stride fodder to a degree. It facilitated the stride process. Like you stride with the grade 3, you put back the grade 3, you shuffle your deck, and your Vanguard gets a boost for the trouble. Dijet, I run it at 4. It's a beautiful card. It's something I want to see every single game, and it's almost never not doing its job. If I have to use grade 2 and grade 1s to stride with, I'm already in trouble. I'm already behind. But if I'm using grade 3s and facilitating the cycle engine, it's almost unstoppable to that degree.
This really did help my deck a whole lot, and especially after talking to you when I tried and built. And the deck is very successful. However, like I said, you are right. You definitely got to have Die Kaiser out to win. And the moment you stride, this guy is golden.
Exactly. He's the second he's online, it's over with at that point. I was like, okay, I got like 5 grade 3s in my graveyard drop zone. Okay, fine. Put one back, +4. Then every turn after that, put one back. And then of course, the rear guys from your opponent, your Vanguards, are going to be targeting Dijet at that point because he becomes, I guess, he in a sense becomes like what Silent Tom is for OTT. It's like one of those units that they can't leave on the field, especially when it goes in the mid to late game. They can't leave it on the field at all.
All right, moving on. The first of many grade threes we're going to be talking about. So I run 3 of this dude in my deck. My deck is only 10 grade threes. Like I said earlier in the show, I'm a highly, highly consistent person. I got to have it a certain way. We'll be discussing every single grade 3. So go ahead and talk to us about why you run this big heifer, because he is one of the best grade 3s D Police has right now.
As of right now, I would say that he is the finisher. He's the closer. He's the backup. The backup ball in the bowling. He's the 9-iron. He's the putter. He's the one who ends games. Usually, like I said, about 60 to 70% of my games end on me having True Kaiser online. I ran 2 of them at ARG because I wanted to have so much fun at this event. So I just wanted to have a whole bunch of them in there. We'll talk about that one in the future sense. But he does so much, and people don't realize because Kaiser itself doesn't do anything unless it gets broke. But True Kaiser has the ability to break the game state to such a degree that your opponent will have to respect every single swing that Kaiser puts out, every single one that it puts out. And of course, let's not even talk about the Legion being at 22. Which means you got 2 11s. There's not too many other legions that can boast above the 20K mark. And then you're talking about limit break going online for your mate. So it's just like there's so much that happens with this card when it hits the board that your opponent is like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm going to drop my entire hand. It just keeps the whole hand alive. And even still, you can still break through because he has a built-in Kaiser ability. So you have a built-in Kaiser ability on top of his Kaiser ability. So it's like Kaiser on top, it's like Kaiser squared. It's done correctly.
He is right now. He is the king of the D-Robo builds. We'll move along. His partner in crime, Great Daisha, originally the former king, once now dethroned or abdicated to the bigger baddie.
Yeah, it was a hard transition for me when I first made that conversion over. I wasn't ready to give up my Daishas just yet. But I knew that if I was going to get better, if I was going to get stronger, I was going to have to make that jump. And it hurts me to a degree because I believe a lot in what Daisha does, mostly because Daisha was there with me from the beginning. So when I saw Ultimate Dimension Robo Great Daisha first appeared in the series when Kenji was fighting against Ren, it was a moment for me. I was like, there it is. There's my new win condition. There's my cross ride. And it meant a lot to me when he first came out because it was like, okay, the cross ride's out there, the limit break's out there, you get the plus 2K in the soul, and there's so many ways to do this whole thing up, and then go usually your way there. And it's like he became, I guess, second banana to True Kaiser because, well, True Kaiser breaks shields, and Great Daisha reminds us of where we came from, when we were just up there just saying we're going to swing as hard as possible, a boost from a Speed Star, a boost from a Cosmo thing, a boost from Mass Police Grenadier, and maybe Laurel will say hit him again. And it just reminds us of where we came from of True Kaiser to a degree because it reminds us that we had to come from this to get to this. And so it's truly an evolution of sorts. And an homage all by itself.
I mean, even if you have to ride him, that's not a bad thing because if you got the necessary abilities on there, you are a constant pressure of a 13K base attacker with 2 crit right off the bat. So they're going to be blowing their hand constantly.
Oh yeah, it terrifies people, especially with Die Lion. So it always makes for a fun play if you want to really just try to end the game quickly. You just simply, go your way there, get a Die Line out there, and be like, okay, 13, it's be like 22 crits. It's like 22 crits already. Like, yeah, 22 crits to the face. You got to deal with it, and it's a great way to really force the hand out early, or just deal the damage early because you can put your opponent on defense really quickly if you can just straight up be like, okay, 22 crits, and then next turn 22 crits. and every single swing at 2 crits, it's gonna force him to drop hand because no one wants to take 2 damage in a game where all you do is get the 6.
Yeah. All right, moving right along. The thing that changed everything for us.
Well, we're talking about our break route. We're talking about the appearance of Daikaiser. I remember it was about 2 years back when I first found out that Daikaiser was going to be a thing, and then it came out. And I remember that the build up to that, it was a lot of days, a lot of frustration that went into those days where it's like, we got Daiyu shot here, we got great Daiyu shot here, we got dark Daiyu shot here. We're doing what we can, but it was like we need something more. And
you want to know frustration? It took me my entire 2-week Japanese trip, going from Kagoshima to Fukuoka, to finding 4 of these starter decks.
Really?
I found 2 of them in the fall festival, 1 in a random mall and 1 in the local card shop in the mall at the Shinkansen station during my trip in Japan. It took me my entire 2 weeks to get 4 starter decks, to get 4 Japanese Great Daikaisers.
That must have been a labor of love, to say the least.
Oh, yeah, and my family was like, why are you getting a children's card game? It's like, you don't understand. Just point me to where the cards are. And my sister had to explain to my Japanese side of my family. It's like, Joe really likes Japanese superhero stuff.
It's always a nice notion. I mean, it was worth getting a hold to. I remember when I bought them all, I was the happiest dude in the shop that day, because it was just, finally, I am going to scare the living heck out of every single person in the shop now, because now you won't laugh at me for running as many grade 3s as I want. And back then, I mean, I ran consistent numbers with my grade 3s. I mean, I ran 4 regular Daiushas. I ran like 2 or 3 great Daiushas, and maybe like 1 like dark Daiusha, or 1 or 2, or it was like there weren't many of them around. I mean, there weren't many D-Robos to be excited about, and it was just like, but Daikaiser changed the whole scope of things. He changed how people looked at the clan. You changed the whole game.
Oh, yeah.
To the point where he's still feared today.
The Ultraman's viable for a little bit.
Oh my goodness, that was true, actually.
We love you, Enigman. We wish you got the support that what do they call Zeton thing now? What is it? God. They tried to make it a thing. That's right here.
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. It's not coming to me right away.
All I can remember every time I talk about Enigman, I just call him Ultraman. Call it Zeal. That's right. Zeton Zeal.
Oh yeah. The Zeal, they I feel like every subclan at some point had 4 Daikaiser in their deck. That's how great he was. I mean, as Run Dude Police, I expect to see Daikaiser as your optimum ride. And whatever happens after that is fine. I mean, not that Original Saber 0 wasn't bad, it's just that I will PG this swing. I will be just at 0 and just not get hit. And it got to a point now where Daikaiser said, I don't care about your PGs. And now it's the only clan that could say, I don't care about your PGs when you drop them. Other clans can say you can't use them, but Daikaiser said, you can drop them if you want, but you're not guaranteed to have it. And that just changed the scope of how everyone played against D-Robos. It changed everything for us, and it made us just so much stronger.
All right. We can gush over him for like another 4 hours if we wanted, but we need to move on.
I could gush so much over that.
The original bad boy of the clan. Normal Daiusha. You got him big, he gave you a crit.
Oh yeah, he was people do ask me what my avatar is. I say it's SDR Daiusha all day, every day, because he started it all for me. He's the one who got me into this clan wholesale and made me believe in them that much more. When it comes down to it, I mean, back in the day, it was really hard to get him that extra crit. I mean, we had the Cosmos out there. We had Speed Stars. We had Mass Voice. We had Dilated. We had, if you can get your soul, if you can get your, your Die Mariners and your Die Battles in the soul, those are other ways to get them just to get that extra crit. And what we realized is that it was a lot of trouble back then to give them that extra critical. Nowadays, it's so much more readily accessible. I mean, we have so many cards that just be like, oh, play +4. Like Yuka, for example, +4. No, Rekka back to the deck, +4. A lot of our key units that give us power are so readily accessible now.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard for people to believe not to use Daishield more often. He saved me in my match against in my feature match in Indy. I mean, I love Daisha. It's the reason why he's Avatar. I mean, he literally, he's about as basic as it gets. I'm at 14. I'm shooting for 2 crits. That's all you need sometimes. Is that pressure of I'm doing more than 1 damage this turn.
Yep. All right. Diehard. A lot of people, myself included, just kind of looked at it as like, eh. What else do we have for D-Police in the Fighters collection? I still think that's somewhat the case because he's greatly overshadowed because we still have Die Kaiser.
Uh-huh.
We have other ways of searching out D-Robos easily. What's your thoughts on him?
My thought process is people ask for consistency in D-Robos. They ask for better ways to guarantee their rides. I mean, there are better ways to guarantee your rides. Like, for example, if we ever get Kaiser Grader, then people will say, yeah, we're dire. But the notion is that not every D-Robo out there is gonna need a a consistent way of searching them out. Not everyone's gonna want to run Die. Not everyone's not gonna run Die Heart. Not everyone's gonna want to run Go Yusha. So for those people who don't always want to just run True Die Kaiser on people's throats and maybe want to have other winning conditions or other options, I think Diehard is a really solid option. Because Diehard does on grade 3 what Diehard does on grade 2, which is what Kaiser Grader can do if need be on grade 1, if you got the grade 2 Kaiser on the Vanguard, which is what Goyusha does when you're on grade 0 from grade 2 anyway. Diehard just helps you guarantee your ride. And, of course, it's a soul charge of a D-Robo. So for those people who use, Die Mariners and Die Battles, I mean, there you go. I put some right in the soul for you. And you still get your card straight from the deck, Superior Ride, plus it plus 4K?
Yep.
I mean, you can't argue with that. I mean, I used to use this with my Dayusha. So it'd be like, okay, Dayusha comes out to 14 and gets a 2 crit. Pull out the soul, that's 17. It still has a 2 crit. I mean, it's a good way to combo off. It's not always just about Die Kaiser. And that's what Diehard was for, just to remind us that sometimes you don't need to have your best ride to guarantee yourself getting to it. Sometimes you just have to have it set up properly.
Alrighty. Next up, Shadow Kaiser. I don't think we really talked too much about this dude. We really just see him as what Kenji did in the show. You just plop him down and then go immediately search for ultimate great Die Kaiser.
Well, the notion is that I run it as one of in my deck because I still run my 1 copy of the Cross Break Ride for Die Kaiser. And the reason why I like Shadow Kaiser is because it's nice to have an option for Dire. What I've noticed in a lot of decks, though, they'll run like 4 like Die Kaiser. They'll run like 4 of the True Die Kaiser and like 2 or 3 of the mate. But what I like to say, though, is that for Dire, sometimes you just want to fill your board. And sometimes you need good options to fill your board with. So for me, sometimes that would be Shadow Kaiser and Dijak. So that way, depending on the scenario, maybe I can, if I feel like I have enough counterblast to pull off that combo that turn, I'd go that route. Maybe I don't have the grade 3 in my hand that I want. Maybe I don't have the Go-Yusha that I used because it got blown up via starter skill, like a Gatling Claw or a Twilight, or maybe even a Blaster Blade or a Blast Dark Abyss. It's like so many things that happen during the course of the game. It's nice to know that you have an option to still get off one of your better combos in the deck. And for me, it's always been, you're going to ride on Die Kaiser, it seems like, if you have 4 of it, but you're not guaranteed it. So for me, maybe Dyer turns himself into Daikaiser, Shadow Kaiser in hand, Counterblast 1, and there goes your superior break right at the cost of, like, what, a Counterblast 2. So it's like, he has versatility, but once again, I like running combos in my deck. So for me, I like Shadow Kaiser, and of course, if he is on the Vanguard circle, he does get that plus 5k boost in the battle. So if you break right onto Shadow Kaiser, for example, now it's a 26, unboosted 26. Coming at the Vanguard, plus whatever else you have behind it for 2 crits.
No good. True Ultimate, Great Daikaiser. This dude was pretty monstrous when we first came out. I think he actually got overshadowed because we upgraded to something else so quickly that he didn't really get his time to shine. I think we got him, then like a month or 2 later, we got the Gear Chronicle starters, which gave us True Ultimate Great, and he just kind of got passed over.
Which is a shame, really, because, before we got Strides, there was Great Daikaiser who said, you know what, I'm going to show you what Triple Drive looks like. And people don't realize just how important an ability that was when you broke Road. And to this day, it's still the only unit that can truly get power of a Daikaiser.
Did we lose you? Oh, you muted your mic.
You good?
Yeah, there we go. Your mic muted.
Okay. Cuts off. My computer's really old. Let's start from the beginning with that.
Yep.
There was a time where I feel like he's the only person who can really take advantage of a true Daikaiser break ride. Because if you stride, you don't really get the guard breaking ability. And if you can Legion, but it's only a twin drive. So Great Daikaiser truly is the only unit in the D-Robo lineup who can still get that triple drive off with the guard break ability. So he still has a place in the game, but it's only for those who don't really want to just rely on True Daikaiser let's twin drive our way to victory. Sometimes the triple drive comes in handy, and I already told you earlier in the cast about how you can, sometimes go Yusha and then Die Lion, and then if you have enough, Counterblast for that, you can get a quick triple drive off right then and there.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It mitigates the cost at that point. So it's like an 18 at the face of a grade 1 or grade 2, but it's still a triple drive, but you're getting cards back then. Of course, you check your draws, so it's just more. So it's a way of, it still has a lot of versatility. It's still no special counterblast, but it's really heavy in this day and age, especially when you don't run the unflippers. But I still believe a lot in sometimes your win condition might be somewhere else. And that's why I run a lot of grade 3s, because win condition is not always going to be, brick right on a True Daikaiser and swing for the fence. Sometimes it might be someone else break right, or you might be just pressure with the 2 crit from the OG Dayusha. It's all a matter of happenstance because every game will be different.
Yep. All right. Next up, we got Dayusha Reverse.
I run
this forever.
I ran one of it actually in Indy. I loved Dayusha for what it does. Because Reverse Dayusha, like I said, it's a minus 10k. It goes against everything that you would want your Dayusha to do. A D-Robo to do, like at grade 3. Okay, I need to be swinging for crits. And sometimes I notice that some opponents really do hold their hand really well against D-Robos because they're expecting that break right swing to happen so they can dump like everything they own. Sometimes, like I said, if you want to cheat your opponent a bit, what you do is you go Yusha into Reverse Ayusha and get your die line out there. Now it's like, flip over the die line, minus some 10k, and if you got some other cards in hand, swing away, pressure him down. It can create quite the aggro assault. A lot of people don't realize that, but there's a very slick aggro game if you can pull off Reverse Ayusha, Counterblast 1, lock a D-Robo, and lock a couple D-Robos and go. It makes for a very fun play if you get that off, like usually around grade 2.
I really don't have too much to say on this dude because, like I said, I haven't seen him in forever, and I was actually one of the people that just looked at it as like, no, I'm going back over to Great Dayusha.
Yeah, most definitely.
I think I freely gave him up to my friends that were running the Glendios deck. It's like, just I'm keeping one just because it's a Dayusha, but I never ran him personally.
Oh yeah, he was a lot of fun to run. Whenever I met up against those Glendios players, I always made it a point to call to the rear guard, or I made it a point to, maybe use it in the Go You Should play. It never saw the board when I was winning against Link Joker players, but against anybody else, I more than readily would ride it and lock 2 units in minus your Vanguard 10K and just push down with a Die Dragon on the side. It just made for a nice push. And even now, because you consider like how it used to be back in the day, there was actually a build dedicated to it, which was just, you got your Die Kaiser, you got your Reverse Ayusha, and I think you ran like original Saber Zero. You ran like a lot of things that just negged the opponent, and you just kind of just tried to rush them down like Zeal style, but not with Zeal, which is interesting when I think about that. It's like you ran Zeal, but not.
But we promise you, Zeal will never be a thing.
Yeah.
What he's based off did kill Ultraman. For lore reasons, he is based off the Ultraman monster Zeton. And Zeton in the original Ultraman did in fact kill Ultraman. Unfortunately, Zeal's crap, and he's never killing anything.
It's the whole notion of I'd rather fight to save the planet than watch someone else destroy it. And I don't know how I feel about that together.
All right. Moving on. We got our strides. So we got the big boss.
Yeah, it definitely helps.
Literally sacrificed himself to keep the deleters from coming for a while.
He did what he could. He took a whole planet out with himself in order to keep that from happening. Dire is interesting when I think about it, because Dire is what a lot of people were not hoping for in the strike, but
needless to say, a lot of us were kind of disappointed with him because we didn't see the utility with him at first. We were really hoping for something that gave us a mass amount of crits or something that was going to be breaking shields. But you never know. We got Fighters Collection 2015 coming, but he actually does really good. He gives us field and lets us restore our field when we go Yusha or when we do something. He helps.
And that's the problem with everyone thinking about Great Dire. It only helps to verify right now where our win condition is in D-Robos. It's not about, us striding for the win. It's about us break riding for the win. That's where our win condition is. When Die Kaiser gets someone to go off for plus 10K, plus crit, plus guard break, that's when we're at our best. And Dire only helps facilitate that notion because he helps you fill up your board. And so that way you kind of get yourself set up for, that final push. So it's, in theory, a setup. And there's nothing wrong with, saying 2 crits on the second go-around, but once again, that's a Counterblast 4. And so it takes a while to get there. And that's not a Counterblast, especially if you have to say 1 Counterblast for your break ride. And if you break ride on True Die Kaiser, then there's no point in them fearing you breaking more guards. It's only breaking on the 1, so it's a guard break 1 as opposed to a 2.
Yeah.
I've always believed that Great Direth is good, but once again, he's not the closer. And I've always known he's not the closer. And when you've accepted that he's not the way the game ends, he's a lot better of a unit.
Yes. However, so do you think we're going to get like 100 Generation Supreme Dimensional Robo Ultimate Kaiser or something for Hydra's Collection 2015?
What I foresee for if we are to get a stride, that's a D-Robo stride in 2015, what I would assume is that if I'm playing if I'm using my memory and my I want to say my imagination at work here for a second, I would say the next stride is going to be female. It's going to be a female D-Robo who's going to be this, and it's going to be someone who offers like some kind of boost to, if you have a certain number of D-Robos, it's a boost to itself, and if it's over a certain number, it gets a crit. I'm assuming.
So you're thinking we're going to get another Die Lady?
I feel like that would be the route we're going with it.
All right, that's an interesting idea. Moving on, we got Dark Superhuman Omega. This dude should have been the opposite to the Enigman deck. I mean, this is literally evil Ultraman. This is Belial from Ultraman. If you guys don't know who that is, go look it up. It's a really good movie.
It's really interesting. I've been a fan of how they presented him. More level diet, so I had to really go into the source material plus my imagination to kind of craft like an ideology behind Omega. And I am such a fan of him. I'm going back to the card side of things for a second. I'm such a fan of him as a whole because he can end games. And I think that's what makes a lot of people angry is that Omega can end games. And he kind of puts people in that bit of a scenario because you figure that with Dire, you're going to call out a grade 3 and a grade 2. So you figure that with Superhuman Omega, you're going to get another Counterblast 2, and you're going to put that grade 3 that you called out earlier into the soul to minus your opponent's Vanguard, a whole 11K. That's a 0 Vanguard in a late game scenario when guard is crucial. So it's the late game push that D-Robos wish they had, but can't have because it's completely evil and not their style. So I find myself
buddy cops, they got some troubles every now and then.
Who knows? I mean, there might be some more villainy in the future for them, but for the most part, I love what Omega does, mostly because he is the epitome of pressure. He just ends games, and most people don't understand just how terrifying it is to be at a 0K Vanguard when you still have, all their units standing up. Usually you figure that when something gets minus, at least deal-wise, I mean, they have to have a full field at least, and they have to waste a whole counterblast for that. Or at least with other units, they find a way to minus you via other means. But Omega just says, I'm minusing you for my own ability. Never mind what everyone else is doing, because everyone else is doing their own thing. I'm just out here just minusing you and getting ready to swing at the head. And that's the whole front row. That's not just the Vanguard. So if they have pesky rear guards that need to go, like a Silent Tom's out there just protecting themselves, Twilight Dragon protecting it with everything they have, I can throw a 16K at that -2 rear guard of yours. How bad do you want it? And if that's how bad you want it, then I'm going to swing this 31 at your Vanguard, and I hope you have a PG. And that's really what you get a lot of times.
Yeah, I mean, I tech 2 of them at most decks.
I never have enough time to pull it off more than once a game. That's why I only run it as a 1-up.
That makes sense. Moving on, we got X-Falcon. This brings me up to an interesting question. Do you lament the fact that we have never gotten Dimensional Robo Go Eagle?
Well, when I think about Go Eagle, I try not to cry because Go Eagle is the one D-Robo that I can't wait to see because with all the support we have now, I have no doubt in my mind that I would have no problem making sure he's online at all times. And he's kind of like what I would always want to do back in the day when I used to play Darker Regulars a lot. Because I used to love Blade Wing Reggie. He would just be like, okay, 3 crits to the face. 3 crits to the face. 3 crits to the face. and I feel like that's what I would do with Go Eagle. Once he's on limit break, which is not a problem because of, Die Lion, you'd be like, okay, 3 crits to the face. And if you break ride Daikaiser on the Go Eagle, you can it ends games better than what true Daikaiser can do. And that's why I think to myself, like, why can't we have you yet? I cry tears over it. Like, why? When are we going to get it? I'm holding out hope that the grade 3 we get in the Fighters Collection is Go Eagle. It could happen. Crazy things have happened.
Well, I mean, we never got our ability to superior ride Daikaiser either. So, I mean, we never got that one grade 1 that says, oh, you got Kaiser on the field. Okay, superior ride.
Yeah, it's coming. But once again, the notion, it's going to be promo status, though. It's going to be promo status.
It's
so we'll get it
promo status. It's several years late.
Who knows? We're catching up very quickly. They might throw it as a box topper somewhere.
All right, so why are you running X-Falcon?
Oh, yeah, X-Falcon, sometimes, it's like I said, I'm a very situational player. I'm going to think about, what possible plays I have set up in this case in point. Like, usually, for example, if I see my opponent has like about 3 cards, 4 cards in hand, and I'm going into my stride, if I have like, a couple Rekkas, a couple Digets here and there, maybe something in a Solar Blast, if I can get that number high enough, I'm going to go for it. Because it's something that I've always been a fan of. Even though people will just realize, they say it's hard to get up X Factor skill, but it's hard to get off. But it's crazy when it does, because you can get to that number. It's not impossible. With Yuka, Rekka, and Dijet, you can get yourself to a 12K base before. So you're at 26 plus a 12, that's 38. Plus whatever you're boosting with. If you have a 7K behind the Vanguard, there's your 45.
Yeah.
It's not an impossible number to get to. So that's why I would run it. I run it as a one-up because sometimes if conditions are set up right, and I don't want to stride on the Dire, and I don't want to stride onto Omega, sometimes it's nice to have another option. And it doesn't have to hit to use the skill. So it's like, I'm at 45, I'm going to hit you. I'm going to hit you. And so it forces out the pressure even more so. And that's the game of Deep Police as a whole. We want to pressure with the Vanguard swing. And X Falcon can do that if you get to that number, and it can be done. All you need is 3 or 4 proper cards on hand, and you can do it.
I think we're rounding out with, we're rounding out and coming to a close with Rogue. Rogue is just a really solid initial stride and gets things going for the deck. It lets you draw a card and makes the opponent kill something. Like I said, this is just a very good first initial stride.
It's what we needed, really, when it came out. When strides started making themselves relevant, like when we had to use String to play elementals. It was like when it came down to X Rogue, it was nice to know that we could use him as a first stride, and it didn't feel like we were handcuffing ourselves. But right now in Deep Police, we don't have that, GB2 do jank, get others that we can use or whatnot. So for us, it was nice to have a card that just said, you know what, you can stride under this, and you can start the pressure right away. And it was nice to have X-Row because he helps facilitate hand advantage. And that's something that is a tad bit unheard of in Deep Police, because, in Rebels anyway, I should say, we don't hold hand very well. And if we do hold hand, usually it's full of threes. So usually the thought process is, it's nice for X-Rogue to be able to hit someone, drive check 3 times, and then get another card off that check. And if you have a Dijet, that's another draw off of that. If you have a Grand Seed, that's another draw off of that. So it's like you're building hand at an expedient rate. You're thinning the deck out, which is only going to make that break ride condition all the much more sweeter. So for me, X-Rogue has always been a very solid card. Always ran it as a one-up because I've always felt like it's just, let's start it off right. If nothing is set up, I have no counterblast to use. The field looks manageable. X-Rogue has always been that solid first stride.
Yeah. And that rounds out the deck, because now we're back at Goyusha. So you have a very lengthy but very impressive deck.
Oh yeah, most definitely. It's not the most consistent of things, but I've played the game a lot for my passion more than anything else. I just want to have fun with the deck the way it's built, and for me, 13 grade 3s is, like I said, it's crazy, but it's surprisingly effective because, like I said, we G-assist now. We stride now. We don't have a reason to really hold back on our building techniques anymore, especially in D-Robos, because we can break the mode because our 3s are just as relevant as our triggers, especially when we break red. That's when we are looking to end the game anyway. And so for me, between Dijet and all the grade 3s I want to run and all the ones I have run, I love them to death, and I wouldn't change my deck as far as grade 3 lamps are concerned for anything right now.
Well, that about covers it. Will, thank you so much for joining us this week. Next week, I think I'm going to be ripping off Mr. Mindham and taking a look at the Garden of Ladies. Lady Garden. There's no way I cannot make that a double entendre.
It's going to be a fun trip indeed. I'm pretty sure there'll be a lot of insight as well. Hopefully give you all information about it.
Oh, yeah. I'll probably be bothering poor Jonathan. He can't escape. He knows he can't.
It'll be a pleasure to be bothered.
He actually has taken a trip over to the World of Justice because I think he's running Hero World.
Oh, yeah. We've been talking about it. A lot of people around me are going Dark Heroes. It's terrifying. Me and my Cartburn trying to make it work, and everyone's, either Kaiser on or your Swartz.
Really? I am tearing people apart with my combi trooper, my Sentai deck.
Oh, really?
Oh, they hate me right now. That's like when you got to have one per card. You got no cards on the field. You got one card in hand. All right. Well, Combi Trooper, bring back Red Ranger, or bring back bring back Saban. Call Saban. Pay gauge to attack with Saban and Combi Trooper. Say go. Win the game. Good game.
Yeah, they seem like they swarm so well, and that's one of the reasons why, if I wasn't so knee deep into my Brave Machines, I would totally have gone superhero.
Oh, the Super Sentai deck, the Quartet 5 deck is so much fun. I will make a special episode, guys, when I finally get it together. I have to get the Guy Grander deck together, and then I will show that off here.
Oh, that reminds me. Make sure to send me your address some point. I actually have an extra Guide Grinder card that I'm not going to be using.
Yeah, that's going to happen. That'll be after this episode. I will give you that.
Yeah, most definitely. I'll send it your way.
Because, guys, I love Cardfight Vanguard, but Bushiroad keeps trolling me with these Mass Police. And there's already a Common Rider deck out over in Buddy Fight. I actually am working on a set art because if you guys notice on Total Justice Gaming on the Wednesday show for UFS, we have that title art of that awesome title art of Joe Higashi. I'm having the same friend that did that for me with Guy Grander for this show as a title card. But we will see everybody later. Thank you again, Will, for coming.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have.
And then we will see you next Sunday when I go romping through the garden.
All right, take it easy now. All right?
No matter what.